College with ADHD, it's not just about staying on top of classes. It's about managing everything that comes with your life on your own.
That's why we created our college coaching program to give students the tools and strategies that actually work for the ADHD brain.
All right, Nikki, what does that support look like?
It starts with our roadmap planning package, 2 powerful strategy sessions before the semester starts. We'll set up a personalized calendar, break down long-term projects, and design systems that match how you naturally work. It's perfect if you like to run with a plan once it's built.
Okay, but what if you need more ongoing support?
That is our weekly coaching package. It's weekly one-on-one sessions throughout the semester where we help students stay on track, work through roadblocks, and build confidence week by week. It's accountability without the pressure.
So if you or someone you love is heading to college with ADHD,
come check out our coaching options at takecontroladhd.com/college. Let's set you up for success from day one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and right there is Nikki Kinzer, front of the class.
Yes. I'm a studious student.
Welcome to season 31 of this ye old ADHD podcast.
That's right. Welcome.
Oh, it's very exciting.
31.
It's not really a thing you can do when you're 31 that you couldn't do when you're 30. That's disappointing. All right.
New opportunities, though. New doors
this one,
to go through.
This one is, we're talking about school. We're talking about college. You've got some new stuff that you're doing with regards to college and planning. We're going to talk about that. And we are going to talk specifically about what it means to go back to school as an adult college student and figure out how to succeed with your ADHD. Before we dive in, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. We're at Take Control ADHD everywhere. And if you like what you hear and want more of it, extended episodes, live streams, member-only content, head over to patreon.com/the ADHD Podcast and join our incredible community of supporters. You can also visit us at takecontroladhd.com to learn more about our coaching programs, workshops, and resources built just for you. And now, college planning. Welcome to college planning. So this is the big one, right? Like this is the big meta skill of
It's pretty
college.
crucial.
It's pretty crucial. If you don't have this game locked down, it's you're asking for some trouble. So let's put some thought into it.
Right. Because in the academic setting, there are so many deadlines and milestones. And as we mentioned in this question that was asked from one of our members, a lot of incoming information is coming in. There's a lot to organize. There's a lot to manage. You've got your academics, but you've got your social life. And, if you're an undergraduate and you're on the younger side, you probably have a really big social life that you have to manage. If you're a graduate student,
I never had that big of a social life. No.
Yeah. See, I experienced that now with my daughter being in school. Like she has a lot of managing that she's doing.
She's so much more popular than I ever was in college. Like an order of magnitude more popular.
Yeah, she's very social. She likes to be out there with the people.
Yeah.
But then we also talk about, I work with a lot of graduate students who tend to be a little more serious about their academics at that point. But that's a lot of pressure too, because the classes are harder. They're more in depth, right? But there's so much to manage. And so that's why it's such a crucial skill for college students is that you have to learn how to plan your week. You need to be able to look ahead. You need to know what you're doing today. It's really important. And we want to offer some help.
Well, and I want to throw in just a little bit of grist for the mill in this conversation, because we're talking in the member pre-show, we answered this question about a lot of information coming in. The other side of that is also true, depending on what class you're going to take, that the biggest peril that you face is the fact that there aren't a lot of deadlines. Maybe there's just a final or a final project.
Yeah. Oh,
and
that throws you for a
nothing
loop.
else between
Yeah.
start day of a course and end day of a course. And so I want to make sure we sort of embrace both ends of that particular spectrum because they're
Well,
both hard for ADHD.
you bring up a good point too, because, we have people, I've worked with people who are studying for LSATs and things
Mhm.
like that, right? Like there is no structure there on how to study for a big test like that. So
Right.
this definitely comes into play too, is how do you plan for that in a way that, is benefiting you? So, yeah.
Right. Right.
So a lot of what we're going to talk about today, I have to talk about our book, of course, because Unapologetically ADHD, we break down planning. And one of the things that we talk about is your workbox, right? So this is
Yeah.
where your work is living. And this is what we have to think about in the college setting is what are your essential planning tools when you're a college student? What is your college workbox? And so we want to identify what your needs are, what your preferences are. It's interesting because even though a lot of the students that I work with, they grew up with technology, right? They know the phone better than me,
Mhm.
not you. You probably know it pretty darn well, but like definitely better than me. But they still like paper. They still like the whiteboard. They still like that, hand to paper. I need to know what I'm doing today. So you gotta, as an individual, you have to figure out like what works for you. My daughter's in college right now. She likes having a weekly paper planner. She has a friend who is dialed into Notion. And
Mhm.
man, is she dialed into it. And
Yeah.
so, everyone's different, right? So we got to identify what works for you, what tools you resonate with. The main ones that we want to focus on is, of course, your calendar, how you're taking notes, how are you managing the tasks that you have to do. And then most schools, I don't know of any school that doesn't have a learning management system
Not
that
anymore.
yeah, most schools do.
Yeah. Moodle, Canvas. Yeah, there are a ton of
Yes.
them. But those are the big
Yeah.
two.
And so you got to learn that because that is a huge inbox. That's going to be a partner
Well, the
for
thing
you.
about it is it's also a workbox, right? And that's what you
Oh,
have
for
to
sure.
you have to separate because there's many of the course discussion threads are going to be in in these platforms. And so you're going to have to know these inside and out. And I really recommend investing, like marking in your calendar. Spend 2 hours learning, watching YouTube videos, become an advanced user of these LMS platforms, these learning management systems. It is
Absolutely.
huge.
It's how professors are updating you
Yep.
and things change all the time. That's
Right.
the thing too, that I definitely have noticed is that what the syllabus says at the beginning, it changes. And so if you're not in class to hear the change or you missed it because you were distracted, it's going to end up being in that LMS or
Yeah.
LMS system, the learning
Right.
management system. So yes, I think that that's where you start, right? Is you really figure out first what are the tools you need, and then figuring out how they work together.
Well, I just want to throw in because I realized a bit of frustration that I had actually as a parent.
Oh, sure.
Because when you're a parent, especially through high school, you get these things. There are LMSs for high schools now too, right? All the kids are in these similar platforms, and we would have other teachers who decided, we're not going to use that. Like the language teacher was like, no, I'm going to use my own thing. And it's going to be Google Classroom, right? Well, that can happen in college too. It can happen in grad school where your teachers are like, you know what? I have a different thing. I've been teaching for 30 years and I do it this way too. All I'm saying about learn the system is learn whatever system is presented. If your professor comes to you and says, I'm using a Google Classroom, learn that too. And yes, it's a burden at the beginning of the term, but it's a burden you only have to take on once, right? Learn it, you'll use it, and move forward. So that's it. That's the big footnote caveat. It sucks, and you just got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So for visual thinkers, which most ADHDers are, one of the things when we talk about paper and we talk about what do you need around your room, your walls, that large wall calendar that shows you the whole semester. Um, I love colorful sticky notes for movable reminders, like for little things that you need to do today. Put a sticky note on your computer so you don't forget, right? We need those things because you might ignore the alarm on your phone, but you're not going to ignore the big red sticky note that's on top of your laptop. Whiteboard systems are great. I've had many students who go get a huge whiteboard and will figure out what are your tasks for the week and what are your important due dates and write them down. Even though they're on the calendar, we're still writing them down on that visual whiteboard too, so that they can see it. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. So again, these tools, we just want you to be able to see the semester as a big picture, but then also be able to plan your day and week with, whether that's a weekly pad or it's a Todoist or whatever it is that you use. We want to be able to see big picture and small picture.
So in this whole process, we want to be aware of the role of friction and how friction both can support us and can
Stop
sort of hinder
us.
us, right, and stop us.
Yeah.
And where that's important to use that when you're doing your planning, when you're taking, taking information from all these different inboxes, and that includes your syllabus, which we're going to talk about in a minute. I think it's really important to have your own system, whether that's in Things or Todoist or Notion or whatever it is, that you're doing a lot of copying and pasting, right? That you're taking you're taking stuff from one place and putting it in your place, in your words, the way you understand it. Rewrite the assignment in a way that works for you and breaks it down for you. Don't assume that just because everything is in all these inboxes that you're just going to remember to look in all the places where all the signals are, because you're not. You have to go through a little bit of that scut work of just putting stuff in your own system. I think using voice dictation removes friction from that, right? When you just say, I'm going to start dictating tasks very quickly. I'm testing in Todoist right now, an AI tool where you just start talking about all the things that you need to do in one long stream of consciousness, and it creates all the different tasks that it found in that long stream of consciousness for you. Those kinds of things are extremely useful. For me, I think note-taking by hand on paper is still really useful, and being able to write notes and then go back and retype them into your system, Notion, wherever it is useful for learning. And so, because part of, reframing and typing your own notes in is helping you regurgitate the stuff you learned in class. That's adding friction to the system versus taking it out, capturing stuff when you need it fast so you don't lose it versus slowing down and really thinking. Those are the two different sort of ways friction sort of applies for me when I think about, student success.
I like the fact that what you were highlighting there too is that we can't just assume that everything is going to be in the learning management system and that it's always going to be there, because you don't remember to always check it. And I can tell you the number of times when I've met with college students on our weekly appointment and we've had to go back in because it wasn't written somewhere else. And when I ask the question, when is this due? The person doesn't know. And so has to go in and look at it. So there is that friction point. So I'm glad you bring that up, because I think that that's a really important key. And as a coach, it makes me think I need to be more aware of that. Like, let's make sure it goes somewhere else too, not just depending on that. So yeah, that's a very, very good point. So one of the things that we have our students do at the very beginning of the semester, and we actually have a new packet or a new service where I'm offering this to students who are looking to plan their semester ahead and they just want that upfront help. And the exercise, most people do it, but they don't always do it fully. Like they get started and then they kind of get distracted, which makes sense because you have ADHD. Of course, that's going to happen. But one of the things we want to do at the very beginning is we want to gather your syllabi from the learning management system, and you want to get your calendars together, and you want to make sure that you're putting the things that are important into your calendar. One of the things that you added here to our outline is, what is the logic of a syllabus? So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Well, professors have a different sort of have unique systems around syllabus. And a lot of institutions now, especially the big ones, have standards for professors to follow when preparing a syllabus. And it'll be kind of like a fill in the blanks, right? It includes course policies, course, descriptions, includes a schedule but not always a schedule of assignments, right? It used to be but when I went to school, the syllabus was one document and it was huge, and it had all of those things plus the entire detailed list of due dates. And it was very easy to put all those due dates in my system, my, day planner. That's harder to do now. So you have to think through the logic of the syllabus is, one, to understand the course you're taking and the objectives that you need to get out of it. If the instructor is saying in this syllabus, I'm going to teach you XYZ, by the end of the course, you need to be able to say, I'm learning XYZ. That gives you an opportunity to map all of the resources that come in to what you're actually purported to learn. I don't know students who, without being told to do this, will do this. I don't know students who sit down and say, I have assignments to do that meet specific learning objectives. How do I know if I'm successful in teaching or taking a class if I can't at the end of it say, I learned what the syllabus said I was going to learn? So focus on that, because that's the teacher is teaching you how to be successful, right? Is teaching you what to do to be successful. And then there's a lot of policies, cheating policies, those kinds of things that are templates, right? Of the university or the department. Then there may be in this document or in a separate document that's attached the schedule of deliverables, of the stuff you're going to have to do. Take these and put them in your own system. Your task management system is projects, or your calendar and your calendar. Ideally, they're talking with one another, your calendar and your to-do system. Document this stuff manually, copy and paste it, retype it, whatever it is. Do the work, because write it in, because it's just like taking notes. You have to introduce friction so that you internalize all the deliverables up front, so you know what you're working toward. The number of students who would come to me like, the 8th week of a 12-week class and say, I didn't see this coming, when it was in the syllabus on day one. And we talked about it on day one. It is frustratingly high, that number. And so you can do yourself a lot of favors by introducing friction to slow down, get through all the boilerplate stuff, and really think through the deliverables. You have to slow down and figure out what the entire arc of the course is. It will be frustrating when you run into those professors who don't give you everything at once. But more often, that happens a lot in high school, but more often than not in college, you'll get the whole course, and you should document.
Well, and I think one of the things you can do, that makes it ADHD friendly is to use color coding too when you are putting these things into your system, so that you know that an exam date is colored red. So it has that, it doesn't look the same as a weekly homework assignment. Right? We need it to jump out at you. So using some color coding, exam dates, red, major projects, papers could be orange. Your daily homework or reading assignments could be in a third color that you love, right? Like, we want these things to jump out at you. We also want to make sure you know important dates, like add and drop and withdraw deadlines. I have found this with my own children, missing those when they probably would have been better off withdrawing from a class or doing pass, no pass, whatever the options are, right? So knowing when those deadlines are really important. But then also on your calendar, specifically adding your work schedule and other known commitments. If you're in clubs that are going to meet every Wednesday, we need that on the calendar, because that is not time that's available to you anymore. But if you don't see it somewhere, you may think it's available and now you've like double booked yourself, or you forget to go to the club meeting because it wasn't on your calendar. So we really want to make sure that we're using these tools and updating them and being consistent with them. And one of the things that I do with my students too is I look at when are their study blocks. If you have 2 classes on campus and there's a 2-hour space there between the 2 classes, make that a study block and go to the library and study for 2 hours. Like, don't just, use that time. Think of it as like a job, you don't necessarily have a 2-hour break. Let's get some stuff done. You're already in the study mode, right? You're already on campus, you're in class, so really trying to use their time in a way that makes sense.
I love that so much. And I said, I had written right after that in our notes, I was like, learning, there's a line between showing up daily and actually building trust with your instructor. Showing up daily is going to college and going to class, right? Building trust with your instructors is showing up daily, going to class, going to work, which is studying, right? And integrating what you've learned, and going back to class and being able to show that you've integrated and are ready to move on to the next thing, right? To really show that your effort is toward long-term integration between the stuff that you're given and the stuff that you need to know for your career, for life, for just being a human being. And there's so much of that is exciting, but how many freshmen have I seen just watching my own kids go through school who treat college as like there's class and then there's all the other social stuff that I'm going to fill in the blanks with. There's playing pool and going to the arcade and right, like you've got to be conscientious and thoughtful about when you're actually studying. That's the real job. That's the real job of going to school.
And that goes into the weekly planning, that we want to try to make a habit, setting time aside every week for you to review the week ahead, checking those the workbox tools, the inbox tools, changes are happening all the time. Updates happen all the time. Things get postponed. So we have to be really paying attention to that. One of the other things that I think ADHD brains tend to fall into the all or nothing or the everything is urgent, right? So they may feel that overwhelm that we were talking about earlier, that everything is coming this week. It's so overwhelming. But this is where you want to actually sit down and break down those tasks and those priorities and figure out like, what is my next step? If something's not due till Friday, but I've got something due on Wednesday, like you do have to play around with that and figure out like how much time to spend on each thing and get help if you need it, processing this and talking to a roommate or to other ADHDers. There's lots of different supports and things like that in college universities that can help you. But I think even just finding somebody else that, they have ADHD, the two of you can like really work together and help each other. So definitely talking things out can help process that breaking down of the different projects. And I also want people to think about where their best study areas are. And if you're not sure, practice. Go to a cafe, go to the library, go to, if it's nice. See, I say that in Oregon because
yeah, right. It's
if you're in Arizona,
today.
It's nice all the time. If you're in Oregon, it's not nice all the time. But, are you going to be outside? Like, where are you less distracted and where are you more distracted? But all of those things can matter in planning, right? Because you want to plan that I'm going to do this and the length of time that you can focus. 2 hours may be too long. So let's take a break and then go to the library, study for an hour, and then go to your next class. Like, we don't know. We need you to practice and figure that out. But it all goes into the weekly planning, right? Of how you're going to spend your time during that week.
The root of it is for me that college isn't just about the academics. I really want to hammer this home. It's about learning how you learn, right? It's that your profs aren't expecting perfection, especially as an undergraduate, right? They're just expecting you to show up and ask questions and try things that work. One of the things that I think is a misnomer is that your professors don't care what you do as a student, right? That if you can skip all your classes, but if you pass the final, good for you.
Right.
And that's great. So you've done performative college. You showed up and you got a grade. What are you going to remember when you left? And do you think your professor noticed that you were there? I will tell you that day to day, if a student doesn't show up, especially with these modern tools, I absolutely noticed that the students were not showing up. I noticed they weren't participating in the discussions, and I could tell you, I could predict they're going to try to make it up on the final project or exam. I give my time to the people who show up, and those students I didn't care about. I really didn't care.
Yeah.
But did I notice? Absolutely. Did their reputation get impacted for me? Right? Like if they came back to me even after getting an A on a final exam because they're good crammers and they asked me for a reference, I would not give them a reference, right? Reputation matters in college, especially college and grad school. And so being able to say you showed up, you did the work, people will notice. People who will matter in your career and in your academic success will notice when you show up. So being able to put some of these things in place, these systems in place so that you stay on top of those relationships, build trust, build, affinity with these people, it'll matter. It'll pay dividends, huge dividends in the end.
Good stuff, Pete.
Hey, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We appreciate you downloading and listening to the show. Thanks for your time and your attention. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute to the conversation, we're heading over to the Show Talk channel on our Discord server, and you can join us right there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level or better. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD Podcast.